receivers coach, Ryan Garrett. Coach, questions for Coach Garrett, Greg?
So, Ryan, just start with the basics. Give me an overview of your position and what you see other receivers.
Yeah, I think right now everybody's competing pretty good. We were trying to build a deeper group this year, obviously with a full year to recruit. We were able to hit in a lot of different areas, whether that be transfer, high school guys, or even a couple JUCO players. You know, that was the goal, was kind of cover our bases and really just look for the most talented guys that we could find, not really worry about where they were coming from. I think right now those guys are, I've been pleased with their intention to work and the way they've attacked it. You know, we've got to continue to improve. Learning the offense with so many new guys is obviously big, but I think we have the right mindset. We just got to get them ready to play this fall.
More guys that are open by birth, maybe?
I hope so. You know, we'll see when we start playing. I don't. You never want to anoint anybody, but we definitely feel like we're a lot deeper. Yep, no doubt. Size, speed, were obviously two big things to hit on. You know, and I think we did hit on that physically. Now they just have to play this fall and make some plays.
Teron Francis, what have you seen from him so far this year?
Yeah, Teron's been good. I have to remind myself he's only 20 years old. You know, he had his freshman year at LSU, and that was it. If you see him, he looks like a grown man. So there are times where I got to remind myself, hey, he's still young. There may be some certain things that he hasn't been taught yet, but he's coming along well. He's a guy that we're going to ask to do a lot of different things, and I think he has the ability to help us in a lot of ways. So just want to continue to challenge him to grow up and be able to help us wherever he can, and he's been willing to do that so far. So excited for his future here.
With so much turnover, how much does it help to have a guy like Jaden Bray that's been here, done that?
Oh, more than you know. You know, Jaden does everything the right way. He's a pro from the way we meet, from the way he practices every single day, you know, and the way he treats his teammates. I have to get on to him sometimes. You know, he's a really, really nice guy, and it stands out in everything that he does, you know, and that's a good thing for sure. But he's definitely good to have around those guys, and he's really embraced a leadership role, I feel, a lot more this season than in the past. So excited for what he could do this year. You know, I think he's bought into West Virginia and doing things the right way.
I guess if there's a guy that deserves good luck, it's that guy.
No doubt. No doubt he does. So he's going to work his butt off, and hopefully the results will come this fall.
Well, last year, obviously, winning contested balls one-on-one was an issue, and I know that's a focus for this year. Can you truly evaluate that in one-on-ones out here, or even shell 7-on-7, or does it have to be 11-on-11 for you to get a true picture of, hey, can this guy win this on this route?
Yeah, no, I think we can evaluate that in everything we do. You know, we track it. If you guys go in my meeting room, we've got a board where we track their grade every day, you know, from MAs, loaves, softs, completions, targets, completion percentage, contested balls, and really going back and looking at what they need to work on specifically. But I think you could see that kind of stuff in everything you do, whether it's one-on-ones, skelly, obviously full team reps, and even in drill work, we have to be working on those types of things to make sure that we're developing them, you know. And these guys have attacked it. I think our off-season catching plan was something that I really focused on with Coach Nealon, helped me a lot with. We had the guys up here every morning at 7:30, working throughout the winter and just working the types of catches that we're going to make in games. And that was an area of focus for me and for our room to get better at. They've worked their butts off, and we've tracked it the entire time. And look, we're blessed here, man. Everything we do is filmed, from our drill work to skelly to team. So we can go back as coaches and we label it. You know, Jaden Bray can see every rep he's taken. He can go in, sort it by number 5, and there it is. We have the route in. We see what he's completing at a high rate, maybe some things if they're not completing at a high rate, and that way we can focus on what we need to fix.
So do you have an example or two of, hey, when you're doing those individual things you're talking about, getting your hands turned the right way,
100%,
position,
man.
or is it just huge?
If I had a football in here, I'd show you guys. We should have one in here. But a big thing, I always challenge them to keep their hands up. You know, we went back and looked. We did a study in all of college football in the NFL the last 2 seasons, and you're actually over 100% more likely to drop the football if you flip your hands, wherever that is. So you just said it. That's a key coaching point. If you look in our drill work, we have our footballs painted. The tips, both sides of the football are painted blue and gold. So when we're doing our drill work, they have to yell out blue, gold, whatever they're catching right there. That way I can make sure their eyes are in the right place at the tip of the football, and they're bringing their hands there. So there's a million different ways to coach it, and coaching points. We've hit on that. I think we've really emphasized that all off season, and we're starting to see some results of that right now.
Couple of highly regarded JUCO kids in Hutchinson Triplet. So what have you seen out of them? Are JUCO kids typically as far ahead as 4-year transfers, or a little bit behind?
I think it really depends on the kid. First of all, both of those guys can really, really run, and that's what we wanted them for. They stand out. I think they're two of the fastest players on our team right now. In my experience, I think a JUCO guy can be better than a transfer. I think a transfer guy can be better than a JUCO guy. There's a lot of different reasons why a kid ends up in JUCO. Maybe they were at a smaller school and were under-recruited. That was their only option. Maybe it was a great thing. It's just a matter of them making the most of it. I personally have really enjoyed having both those kids and recruiting them. You talk about a kid where you try to find their hard edge. You can find that in JUCO guys a lot of times, because they've gone through it. They're not used to everything we have here, and they come in, they're ready to work and really embrace it. So both those guys can run. I think they fill those voids for us, and they're both going to have the opportunity this fall.
Okay with the perimeter blocking, or is that where are you at with that?
Yeah, we're always preaching that, and that's something I'm always going to stress to get better at. It needs to improve from where it was last year. I think we're going to improve that. We've been working hard to do it. It starts with their willingness, and as a coach, for me, that means developing that. We can't ever accept a guy loafing on the backside of a play. Our wideouts don't ever watch. We're going to chase it down. We want to finish with our hands on the DBs, and I've got to do a good job of pointing that out when it doesn't happen and really, really emphasizing it. And that's something I've personally challenged myself with this season, something we've been good at in the past. I feel like we can improve that tremendously from last year. So I've got to coach that, and those guys have to buy in to doing it.
Guys, have some of them brought that with them, or is that something you're instilling in them?
Yeah, I think we try to instill it in everybody, even our returners. We have very few returners, but we've got to improve on that. So they need to understand the urgency of it, and we want to instill the importance of it with those guys. And one thing we try to do is point it out when they do a good job, point it out when they do a bad job. They're getting graded on that as well, but that's something that we're always going to be preaching here at West Virginia.
Perception is the outside guys are the taller, faster guys, slots are smaller, space guys. Is that perception hold? When you guys are trying to differentiate, how do you decide which one's a slot, which one's a wideout? Yeah,
I think a big thing we look for is, like you kind of said, those slots in the past have been kind of we use the word phone booth guys, where you couldn't touch them in a phone booth, right? They're really, really shifty, those guys that are primarily playing that position. At wideout, one of the big things I look for, do you have the physical tools to get off press coverage? Because if a team can play you in cover 1 or cover 0 all game and you can't get off press, it's going to be a long day for you. It's going to be a long game for the run game and the pass game. So finding guys that can get off press coverage, number one, physically, and play wide out. I think something that we try to do this offseason, though, Coach Bradley and I together and Coach Rodriguez, is find guys that can fill multiple roles. And we feel like we have a much deeper wide receiver unit, whether that be guys that are considered slots or wideouts that can carry over and play some different positions, But I think we hit on a need of finding some guys that are better with the ball in their hand, and that goes both ways. Wideouts have to be able to be good with the ball in their hand in space, and slots, obviously, with everything we do in the run game, need to do that as well. So we have certain attributes that we do look for in both those positions, but there's a lot of carryover as well, and ideally, we want our guys to learn every one of those positions. That way they're able to help the team however they can.
So your wideouts, what you've seen so far, can they get off the press coverage as you want them to? Or still work in progress?
Again, we're always working to get better at it, but I think we're further along than we've been in the past with that.
You mentioned doing some different things with Francis. Is he one of those guys who can potentially play inside, outside?
Yeah, Tehran can do it all. I think from a skill set, he can definitely do those things. With him being a new guy, we've got to catch him up from a playbook standpoint and get him ready to do those things too. And that's on us as coaches and him as a player to put himself in a position to be able to do that. And he's attacking it and he's trying to do that. But, you look back at the kid's film, in high school, he even played some running back, which is something we were attracted to. So we feel like he could do a lot, and really not just him, but other guys. DJ Epps has done a good job this spring of showing that he could be used in multiple ways, and a few of those other guys as well. So we're excited about those guys.
Where's Prince in terms of how his progress going?
Yeah, Prince has improved since he's gotten here. I see improvements. And one thing I was proud on him, we talked about this over the weekend, is we've given him some tangible things that we want him to work on, and even something as simple as his stance and start, you know. And he's a big, tall guy, so if he gives his chest up at the line of scrimmage, it kind of negates some of his strength and the things that he does really, really well. So he's very conscious about what we're telling him to work on, and I've been proud of him focusing on the things that we say he needs to improve. Prince is a phenomenal athlete and a really good player. He's going to make a lot of plays for us, but that's something that's been impressive to me, is really treating it like a pro, saying, Coach, what do I need to get better at? Where do I need to get better? And he's a guy who he comes in 3 times a week separately outside of everybody to watch film, just him and I, and it's been key for him trying to find those times. But I'm excited about Prince. He's improved since he's been here, and I look forward to what he can do this year.
Was that painting of the football something you came up with? I know sometimes they write numbers on it.
Yeah, we've been doing it. Really, we started it at the last place we were at. You know, I've messed around with the numbers deal, but I don't get anything more out of that. I like just having the color. Really, guys, it's just a way for me as a coach, to know their eyes are where they need to be. You know, there's no faking that. You could say, look at the tip of the football, and maybe they are faking it and acting like they are, seeing it through the tuck. But if they're yelling that color, I know those eyes are where they're supposed to be. So we'll see some positive results with that this season for sure.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you very much,
Good?
Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys.